What's happening, y'all, and welcome to episode 1 of the Pivot Experience. My name is Alex Seal, and I am happy to be you guys' host and guide throughout this experience. I've had the luxury of being employed at one of the world's most respected brands for hospitality and just consistency, and that is Chick-fil-A. 16 or so of those years I've spent in leadership, and one of the most important things that I've learned during that time is that you have to learn to pivot. Even though you may be married to your vision, even though you might be married to the core values or core tenets of your business, there will be times where you have to pivot in thought, pivot in the way you do things, pivot in how you view systems, pivot in how you view your relationships and how you interact with people. So this experience is all about pivoting, or how do you pivot as a leader? How do you get to that next level? How do you get to that next space? So enough about that. Let's dive into episode 1, where we're going to be talking about 3 ways that you can elevate your leadership. All right, guys, the first thing we're going to talk about is developing a hunger for growth. One of the most challenging elements to reaching your potential as a leader is owning your shortcomings and acknowledging where you have room to grow. I believe it's human nature to distract others and ultimately ourselves from the things that we may not be our best at for the sake of not appearing to not know what it is what we're talking about or looking weak. We have to understand that none of us are perfect, and when we accept that we possess opportunities to get better, that's when we turn the corner and we begin the journey of getting better. Leadership is a muscle, and like our literal muscles, we have to actively train to keep them in great condition. Oftentimes, we have a habit of becoming complacent once we reach a certain level of promotion. That same level of focus to getting better or improving is required to continue to grow or even maintain the status of the position that you currently possess. Next item on the list is understanding that everybody isn't you. So you've got to stop putting your expectations on them. I think the number one frustrations as a leader is that we are leading a group of people who don't necessarily do things the way that we would like them to do it, or they don't do it at the same level that we do it. I know personally that this is something that used to frustrate me, and it still does in some honesty, in some transparency. You may think that you have all the answers and your way is the highway, but believe me, there are people who are either in a position that you're currently in or in a position that you are aspiring to get to, that they may have their own way of doing it, and I can bet you that their way is different than yours. Now, I'm not saying that that you go against the grain of safety or any core operating procedures that you may have, but sometimes you have to allow people to make mistakes, and you have to allow people to be them, for them to understand what works best for them and what works best for their style of leadership and their lifestyle. I think there should be some level of congruency when it comes down to standard operating procedures, how we go about scale and replication. However, the behind the scenes things of how we go about analyzing what our results are, or analyzing what direction we want to go in, I believe it's important that we kind of let people kind of be them in some capacity. There has to be a baseline of understanding. Do you understand the job first, or are you able to conform to some line of thought before you're given the access or given the autonomy to be able to do your own thing? And so, again, as you're leading in life and in your organizations, you have to understand that everybody's not going to see it exactly the way you see it, and that's okay. You have to be willing to accept other people's way of doing things or the way of thinking. And last but certainly not least is, I believe that we have to understand the difference between managing and leading. To me, I guess simply put, being an effective manager means that you can effectively manage or effectively galvanize and organize where the leader has gotten it to. The leader is responsible for going out and forging new paths forward to take us higher. Whereas great managers, once that higher bar is established, can sustain within that area. So for me, yes, it's wildly important that you have the ability to be able to sustain where the leader has taken it, or be able to just replicate where it's at. But the leader really sees where we can scale. How high can we take it? And not only just identifying what the result is, but then kind of plotting out the steps that we need to take to be able to get to that next level. And then being a great manager, you manage the things that the leader has identified as core components to that growth, or core components to that scale. So do I believe that both of those skills are very important? Absolutely. But I just want those people out there to not confuse being a great manager. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're great at leading up. You can lead in the area of sustainability. You're leading in the area of consistency at a certain level, but are you able to go, hey, I think we've mastered this area, or mastered this concept, or mastered this objective? Is there anything we can do to the system or to the operation to go higher? And that's where the leadership kicks in. And so I think people start out being great managers because when you're at the general level of workforce, you're mainly responsible for the repetition of the things that are already established, whereas you're taking in information from your superiors on keeping you within the guardrails of that information. But as you get better at that, you kind of get your position in management, but then you have to transition from being great at that to being great at, hey, how can we scale up? How can we go forward? How can we take it higher? If you made it this far on today's episode, man, I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I've literally been sitting on content for years, and this is some content that I wrote over a year ago that I felt compelled to go ahead and just say, let's stop saying we're going to do it and let's just go ahead and do it. I definitely want to thank all those people who are in my life that have been with me during this journey, all the my family for allowing me to grow in this capacity and arrive to this point where I feel comfortable in sharing my story as a leader, or sharing my story, not just as a leader in my organization at Chick-fil-A, but just a leader in life. If you've gained anything from this, please share with your fellow leaders, share with some young people that you think may benefit from this content. Today we talked about developing the hunger for growth, and everybody isn't you, and stop putting your expectations on everyone, and then understanding the difference between managing and leading. So I want to put out more content that revolves around this area. I also want to kind of get to the place where I feel comfortable bringing on guests and having dialogue, and exploring the different platforms that we have access to. So until next time, man, you guys love what you do, love who you are, and continue to strive to be the best version of yourself every single day.